Ever find yourself going down an internet rabbit hole?
Yeah.
Me too.
It's fun.
But today, let's ditch the rabbit hole and take a scenic route through the surprisingly twisty back roads of how we even get those search results.
All right.
We're talking search engines.
Yeah.
From their surprisingly recent beginnings to the behind-the-scenes tech most of us never even think about.
You'd probably use a search engine every day, right?
Oh, yeah.
But did you know the need for something like a search engine existed way before the internet as we know it?
It's true.
Yeah.
We're talking decades before the World Wide Web.
Oh, right.
Like something out of a retro sci-fi story.
1945.
Okay.
Picture an American engineer named Vannevar Bush.
Okay.
He dreams up this device called a Memex.
Memex.
Imagine a desk,
Right.
but it's a portal
Okay.
to a library bigger than you can fathom,
Wow.
all connected in ways we would call hyperlinks today.
Hyperlinks, but in desk form.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Bush was onto something. He saw that information was growing exponentially,
Right.
and we'd need new ways to sift through it all.
Yeah.
His Memex, though, just a concept,
Right.
was a powerful foreshadowing of how we navigate the information overload today.
It's mind-blowing how these early ideas shaped the technology that seems so basic to us now.
Absolutely.
Like we take it for granted.
Yeah, we do.
Every day.
And even before the web exploded,
Right.
the early internet was already a bit of a wild west.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to find specific files across a vast network,
Okay.
but there's no Google to ask.
That sounds frustrating to say the least. So how did they even find anything?
Enter Archie back in 1990.
Archie.
Curdy. Keep in mind,
Okay.
websites as we know them barely existed.
Right.
Archie wasn't searching those.
Okay.
It was all about FTP sites.
FTP.
Yeah.
For those of us who weren't glued to a computer screen back then,
Right.
what's that stand for again?
File transfer protocol. Think of it as a way to move files
Okay.
between computers on a network.
Got it.
Archie indexed the names of these files.
Okay.
Like a very, very early library card catalog,
Okay.
but just for file names.
Talk about rudimentary.
Right.
But
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
World Wide Web took off.
Yeah.
Things started changing at warp speed.
Right. The early 90s saw a burst of creativity.
Yeah.
And honestly, some of the names were a little quirky.
Okay.
Ever heard of Gopher?
Maybe. It rings a very distant bell. Like
Yeah.
a computer class flashback or something.
Gopher was a way to structure online information,
Okay.
kind of a precursor to websites.
Okay.
And alongside Gopher,
Okay.
you had search tools like Veronica and Jughead,
Veronica and Jughead.
Yep.
Wow.
named after the Archie comics.
Even back then, tech had a sense of humor.
Always.
That's great.
But the takeaway here is that these early tools
Okay.
were still tied to specific systems, like Gopher.
Okay.
As the web grew messier
Right.
and more intertwined,
Right.
a more universal approach was needed.
That's where those digital spiders come in, right?
Yes.
The web crawlers constantly exploring and indexing the web.
Right.
Even now as we speak.
Precisely.
It's a little creepy.
And the granddaddy of them all,
Okay.
the World Wide Web Wanderer, emerged in 1993.
Wow, what a name.
I know, right?
The World Wide Web Wanderer.
It's what enabled the creation of Wandex, the first ever web database.
So this wanderer basically kicked off the whole indexing frenzy we live with today.
You could say that,
Wow.
though it wasn't without its hiccups.
Oh, no.
The Wanderer's constant crawling actually slowed down the early web,
Oh, wow.
leading to a debate. Were these bots good or bad?
Yeah.
It mirrored a lot of the conversations we still have today about the influence of search.
It's like history rhyming, isn't it?
It is.
These pioneers were already wrestling with the implications of what they'd built.
Exactly.
So they knew
They knew.
that this was going to be big.
And that's when we see the first attempts at alternatives.
Okay.
Alleyweb, for instance,
Alleyweb.
relied on website creators manually submitting their site info.
A more curated approach before curation was a buzzword.
Right. Interesting.
It shows that even back then,
Yeah.
there were different philosophies
Yeah.
about organizing this new online world.
Makes sense.
Some favored the automation of crawlers,
Right.
others a more human touch.
So we have these early attempts, some successful, some not,
Right.
all trying to make sense of the burgeoning World Wide Web.
Yeah.
But when did things start to resemble the search engines we use every day?
The mid-1990s marked a turning point.
Okay.
Search shifted from a research project to a gold rush.
Ooh.
Names like Yahoo, Lycos, and Excite
Oh, yeah.
were vying for the top spot.
The Wild West of the internet,
Yes,
complete with digital prospectors.
exactly.
What was it like back then?
Yahoo, for example, started as a web directory.
Okay.
Think of it as a carefully organized catalog of websites. Okay.
It was only later that they added crawler-based search.
So they came in with a curated approach?
They did. They did.
Interesting.
And let's not forget, the browser wars raging at the time.
Oh, right.
Remember Netscape?
Vaguely. Kind of hard to imagine a world before Chrome and Firefox.
I know, right?
But yeah, Netscape, I remember that name.
Netscape was the browser to use back then.
Okay.
They had deals with various search engines to be featured on their platform, highlighting how intertwined these tech landscapes were becoming.
The battle for the gateway to the internet.
Exactly.
But this period wasn't all smooth sailing, right? Wasn't this around the dot-com bubble?
You're right.
Okay.
The late 90s saw massive investment and speculation in internet companies.
Everybody thought they were going to get rich.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Search engines got caught up in the frenzy.
Yeah.
Many going public.
Right.
Attracting huge valuations.
Yeah.
Only to face a harsh reality check when the bubble burst in the early 2000s.
A classic tale of boom and bust.
Yes.
It's almost poetic in a tech kind of way.
It certainly set the stage for what came next.
Okay.
Because from the ashes of the dot-com bubble rose a new power player.
Right.
One that would change everything.
Let me guess.
Google.
You got it.
Right.
But before we dive into Google's rise,
there's
a fascinating piece of the puzzle we need to explore. In 1996, a computer scientist named Robin Lai was working on something called the RankDex algorithm.
RankDex rings a bell, but I can't place it.
It never hit the mainstream like Google,
right.
But it was huge in terms of innovation. RankDex was the first search engine to use hyperlinks as a way to judge the quality and importance of websites.
Now, that's clever.
Yeah.
So the more links a site had pointing to it,
yes,
the higher it would rank in RankDex's results.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
Understood that links were like votes of confidence.
If a lot of sites linked to a specific page, it suggested that page had something valuable to offer.
It seems obvious now,
right?
But back then it was groundbreaking.
It was.
So how did RankDex influence Google?
Well, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, the minds behind Google,
right,
were developing their own search engine around the same time.
Okay.
They've acknowledged how influential Lai's work was.
Really?
Page even cited Lai's RankDex patent in some of his own patent applications for Google's now famous PageRank algorithm.
Hold on. So Google's PageRank,
yes,
the thing that launched them into the stratosphere,
right,
was built on the foundation of RankDex.
In essence, yes.
Wow.
Both algorithms understood that links were powerful indicators of a website's quality and usefulness.
Okay.
RankDex had a head start.
Right.
But in the end, Google's PageRank proved even better at analyzing those intricate webs of links across the internet.
And that's how they took over the world.
Pretty much.
Or at least the world of search. But it's amazing to think that even giants like Google were inspired by the work of folks like Robin Lai.
It really highlights how tech evolves.
Right.
It's rarely a straight line.
Right.
From idea to success.
Right.
It's more like a tangled jungle of inspiration.
Yeah.
With each innovation building on, or sometimes even challenging what came before.
Right.
And with search engines, that evolution is far from over.
Which brings us to Google's rise to the top.
Okay.
And what search looks like today.
So picture this.
Okay.
The dot-com bubble implodes, leaving a lot of companies in its wake.
Yeah.
But there's Google, ready to take center stage.
What was it about them that allowed them to jump ahead of everyone else? Was PageRank the secret weapon?
PageRank was definitely game-changing.
Okay.
But Google's success was also about timing and strategy.
Okay.
They came in right when people were getting fed up
with
how cluttered and confusing a lot of search engines were back then. Right? Remember those portals?
Yes.
That tried to be everything: news, weather, shopping, email, all with a site of search.
Oh, yeah. I remember those days.
Right.
Information overload before we even knew what to call it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Google went the opposite direction.
Right.
With their signature minimalist approach.
Right.
Just a clean white page and that iconic search bar.
Yeah.
They bet on speed, relevance, and a clean user experience.
Less is more.
Exactly.
And it's safe to say they won that bet big time.
They did.
But it's not like they completely wiped out the competition, right?
Definitely not.
Okay.
The world of search has always been dynamic.
Right.
Microsoft, for instance, has been a consistent contender.
Right.
First with MSN Search and later with Bing.
Bing, yeah.
Which launched in 2009.
Okay.
And, of course, there's the Yahoo and Bing partnership, where Yahoo essentially outsourced their search function to Bing's technology.
Wow. So they gave up. It's a good reminder that even in tech, there are team-ups and shake-ups constantly shifting the landscape.
Absolutely.
You got to stay on your toes.
And while Google's a global force,
right,
their dominance isn't universal.
Right.
Take Yandex in Russia.
Yandex, okay.
They've actually managed to hold their own against Google in their home territory.
How?
Because they truly understand the nuances of the Russian language and what their users are looking for.
That's fascinating.
It shows that even a giant like Google can be challenged.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all search world out there.
Not at all.
Wow.
Each of these search engines,
yeah,
even if they work on similar principles,
right,
has its own special algorithms.
Okay.
They're all tailored to the specific languages and cultures of their users.
It makes you wonder,
yeah,
if search is that localized,
right,
how do these engines even work? What happens when we type in a search?
That's a fascinating process, really.
Yeah.
Despite their differences.
Okay.
Most search engines rely on three main functions. Crawling indexing.
Right.
And then the part we see, searching.
Okay, let's break that down.
Okay.
Crawling.
Yes.
That's where those tireless web crawlers come in.
Right.
Constantly scanning the vast expanse of the internet.
Right.
Still a little creepy.
Crawlers.
Yeah.
Sometimes called spiders or bots.
Right.
Are basically automated programs that explore the web.
Okay.
Clicking on links and moving from page to page, just like you would.
Wow.
Bingo. Their job is to discover and gather information about all those web pages out there.
Like tireless digital librarians.
Right.
Constantly updating their catalog of the web.
Yes.
What happens to all the information they collect?
That's where indexing comes into play.
Okay.
It's like creating a giant searchable database of all the content on the web.
Okay.
When a crawler visits a page,
right,
it examines the content, the text, images, keywords,
right,
and then it adds all that information to the search engine's index.
So it's more than just copying the web page.
Right.
It's about extracting the important bits that make it searchable.
Exactly.
Okay.
Think of the index like a massive library catalog.
Right.
But instead of books,
right,
it's filled with web pages.
Okay.
Each one carefully labeled and categorized.
And then finally, there's the searching part.
Right.
Where we, the users, come in.
Right. When you type something into a search engine,
yeah,
you're not actually searching the entire web live in that moment.
Right.
You're searching the engine's index.
Right.
That massive database we were just talking about.
Okay.
And then the engine's algorithms get to work.
Right.
Sifting through that index to find the results that are most relevant to what you're looking for.
So we're searching a curated version of the web,
yeah,
as understood and organized by these powerful algorithms.
Yes.
It makes you realize how much influence they have.
It really does.
Wow.
Which brings us to those algorithms.
Right.
And why understanding them is so crucial.
Okay.
They determine what we see.
Right.
And ultimately, how we see the world through the lens of the internet.
Let's dive into that.
Okay.
The power of these algorithms, they're fascinating, but there's also a lot of discussion and concern about them.
Oh, yeah.
What are some of the things they consider when deciding how to rank those search results?
Well, algorithms are incredibly complex.
Right.
But there are some key factors at play.
Okay.
Keyword frequency, for example, is a big one.
Okay.
How often does a specific keyword show up on a page?
Right. It seems like that would be easy to manipulate.
You would think so.
Just cram a page full of keywords, right?
Right, but search engines are smarter than that now.
Okay.
They've gotten really good at detecting and penalizing keyword stuffing.
Okay.
It's considered a form of spam these days.
So it's not just about quantity, it's about quality and context.
Exactly.
What else are those algorithms looking at?
Links.
Link.
Remember our chat about RankDex and PageRank? The number and quality of links pointing to a page are still a major ranking factor.
Right.
The idea is the same.
Okay.
If reputable websites are linking to a page, that's a good sign that it has trustworthy information.
Right. It's like a constant game of cat and mouse.
It is.
People trying to figure out how to game the system to get higher rankings.
Yes.
And the search engines trying to stay one step ahead.
Exactly.
Wow.
It's a dynamic interplay of technology, strategy, and ethics.
Right.
And that's an important point. Search algorithms,
Okay.
even though they seem objective, aren't perfect.
Right.
They can be influenced by a lot of factors.
Of course.
Some more obvious than others.
You're talking about how search results aren't always neutral, right?
Right. This idea of bias.
Right.
What we see in our search results isn't always a neutral representation of the information out there.
Right. It's skewed by
yes.
commercial interests or whatever.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And so
that's a big deal.
It is.
What are some examples of these biases we might come across?
One common type is commercial bias.
Okay.
Remember, search engines are businesses.
Right.
And they make money from advertising.
Yes.
So companies that pay for advertising
right.
can sometimes influence how visible their products or services are in search results.
So those sponsored results that pop up at the top of the page?
Yes.
That's commercial bias in action.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's not always as overt as paid ads.
Right.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Even the regular search results can be affected by commercial interests.
Right.
Especially if a search engine prioritizes websites that help them generate more ad revenue.
So it's good to be aware of the financial incentives at play.
Yes.
What other types of bias are out there?
Geographic bias is another big one.
Geographic bias, okay.
Your location
right.
can actually influence your search results.
Okay.
Search engines try to prioritize locally relevant results because it stands to reason that you're probably interested in things that are closer to you.
That makes sense.
Right.
But it also means that two people searching for the same thing in different parts of the world could end up with completely different results.
That's right.
Wow.
And that can have a huge impact.
Right.
Imagine searching for news about a global event.
Right.
The way you understand that event could be shaped by the geographic biases built into the search results you're seeing.
It really highlights how our online experiences are tailored to where we are in the real world.
It does.
Whether we realize it or not.
Right.
Wow. So we've talked about how commercial interests and even our location can shape our search results. Are there other ways these results can be skewed?
Well, there's a more intentional type of bias we haven't touched on yet. Censorship.
Right.
In some countries, search engines are legally obligated to filter out certain types of content.
Oh, wow.
Anything deemed inappropriate or politically sensitive.
This is not always the algorithm itself that's biased, but the external forces that control what it can and can't show.
Exactly.
Wow.
Search engines often have to walk a fine line between providing access to information and following the rules and regulations of the countries where they operate.
Right.
This means that what you see when you search can vary drastically depending on where you are in the world.
It's a good reality check.
Yeah.
We think of the internet as this global equalizing force, but the truth is it's still very much bound by the rules and realities of the physical world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then there's more subtle, but arguably even more impactful issue.
Okay.
What's become known as the filter bubble.
Ooh, the filter bubble.
Yeah. Yes.
That sounds a little ominous.
A little bit.
What is it exactly?
It's this idea that as search engines and social media get better at personalizing our online experiences, we might actually be limiting ourselves without even realizing it by prioritizing content they think we'll like.
Right.
Based on our past behavior, they may end up trapping us in echo chambers of our own making.
So instead of encountering new ideas and perspectives, we're just stuck seeing more of what we already agree with.
Yeah.
Reinforcing our existing biases.
Precisely.
It's a little unsettling when you think about it.
It is.
Yeah.
And it highlights why it's so important to be aware of these potential pitfalls.
Right.
We need to be savvy consumers of information online.
Right.
And actively seek out a diversity of viewpoints.
So what can we do? Are we destined to live in these filter bubbles?
Well,
or are there ways to break free and experience the internet in a more balanced, well-rounded way?
There are definitely things we can do.
Okay.
One simple but effective step is to be mindful of which search engines we're using.
Okay.
While Google's the biggest player, there are alternatives like DuckDuckGo.
Right, DuckDuckGo.
That put user privacy front and center and avoid collecting your data to personalize results.
So if you're concerned about being tracked and having your every move online used to tailor your search results, checking out DuckDuckGo could be a good step.
It could.
What else can we do to pop these filter bubbles?
Don't be afraid to venture outside of your comfort zone.
Ooh, that's hard.
It is.
Yeah,
but make an effort to seek out information.
Yeah.
From sources you wouldn't normally agree with.
Okay.
Challenge yourself to consider different perspectives.
Okay.
Even if it feels a little uncomfortable.
It's like that saying, you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
And sometimes the most valuable insights come from the least expected places.
That's right.
So be open.
On a practical level, you can also tweak your search settings on some platforms to reduce how much personalization is happening.
Right.
This might mean clearing your search history, opting out of targeted advertising, or even just being more intentional about the words you use in your searches.
It's about taking back some of that control.
Yes.
Being proactive instead of just passively accepting whatever the algorithms decide to show us.
Right. And remember, the search landscape is always changing.
Right.
Just like those early pioneers we talked about.
Right.
Who were finding creative alternatives to crawler-based engines.
Right.
There are still innovators out there pushing the boundaries of information retrieval.
Tell us more about those alternatives. What are some examples of search engines that are doing things differently beyond the big names we all know?
One interesting area is specialized search engines. These are engines designed for very specific fields or types of content.
Right.
For instance, if you're doing academic research, you've probably used Google Scholar.
Google Scholar.
It's a search engine just for research papers and scholarly articles.
So if you're diving deep into a particular subject or need reliable academic sources, these specialized engines can be invaluable.
They are.
What other examples come to mind?
Ever need to figure out where an image came from? That's where Tiny comes in.
Tiny?
It's an image-based search engine.
Right.
You upload an image.
Right.
And it scours the web to find other places where that image appears.
That's so useful.
It is.
Whether you're trying to verify the authenticity of an image or track down copyright infringement.
Right.
It's incredible how search tech can be tailored to these very specific needs.
It really is.
Yeah.
And then there are even search engines that focus on filtering content based on specific belief systems.
Religious search engines.
Yes.
Now that's a new one for me.
It might seem niche.
Yeah.
But it goes to show just how diverse the search landscape really is.
Right.
These engines filter out content deemed objectionable according to a particular set of beliefs. For example, there's a search engine called SeekFind.
SeekFind?
That specifically excludes websites that are critical of or attack Christianity.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Search engines as a reflection.
Right.
Not just of our desire for information, but also our values and belief systems.
Yes.
It's a new way to think about it.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it leads us to a final thought-provoking question.
Okay.
As we rely more and more on search engines to navigate the world around us, it's worth asking ourselves, what role do we want these tools to play in shaping our understanding of information and ultimately of ourselves?
That's a big question. Do we just passively accept the algorithms as our guides?
Right.
Or do we engage with them, challenge them, and demand greater transparency and accountability?
It's a question we all need to grapple with.
Right.
The future of search isn't just about technological advancement.
Yeah.
It's about the choices we make as users, as citizens.
Yes.
It's about recognizing the power these tools have and demanding that they're used responsibly and ethically.
That's something to think about. Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive into the world of search engines.
It was a pleasure joining you.
Until next time, thanks for listening.